Joining me now, Michael McLaren, Radio 2GB host, one of my favourites. I listen to him a lot on the weekend. Michael, thank you for your time. You and I have long talked about power bills. We were told when we voted for Labor, I certainly didn't, but people did obviously, voted for Labor last June, their power bills would come down. There'd be $275 off the bottom and that there would be a decrease. It hasn't gone that way. They've gone up and up and up and up. And the energy regulator today says it'll be even worse from the 1st of July. Generalised consumers, you're going to have your bills go up by 25%. I think South Australia is the lowest, just under 20, but let's say 25%. And small business can be as high as 29%. Now, Michael, the chair of the regulator, Claire Savage, today said that these price hikes were, and I quote her, about the difficult balance allowing retailers to cover costs while giving consumers access, she says, to affordable power. Now, I've seen the profit margins of some of these energy companies. I don't think either of those things have been achieved. Do you?
No, I don't think so. I'm not looking forward to getting my next bill online as it happens to be either, Peter. And of course, we have to remind ourselves, don't we, these 20 to 25% price hikes are coming on top of previous price hikes within that sort of range or vicinity. Now, you know, the average Australian out there is hurting. There's going to be, what, another $300 a year more they're going to have to find. Of course, for small and medium-sized enterprises, the price hikes are even greater. As you mentioned in your introduction, and this is the pertinent point, price hikes or not, the fact that in Australia we pay now some of the higher power prices in the world, considering the cornucopia of product we have under our feet or we can use from Mother Nature to generate electricity. It is one of the greatest mismatches in industry policy I think the world has ever seen. It'd be like the Saudis or the Qataris paying some of the highest fuel prices in the world, or the Eskimos paying some of the highest prices for ice in the world. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And yet here we are, and we've got all this sort of expectation management and assuagement going on. At the end of the day, if people are paying money to pay their power bill, it's not money they can spend in the so-called high street. It's not money they can then pay to employ a builder or to employ a barista or to employ somebody else or to give to the arts or whatever it is that fuels the broader economy. So we all lose out here, and it is ridiculous.
And look, the lie of renewables, and we've always been told that renewables are cheap over and over and over again. Of course, the more renewables we've had in the system, our bills have just gone skyrocketing. And if you're a small business, that's a 29% increase for them today. You've got 7% basically on everything via inflation. We've got wages, movement on wages. That's coming through the economy as well. And your power bill's 29%, as I said. You can't jack up the cost of your coffee that you sell by 29%. You'll not have any customers. So how on earth does small business survive?
Well, again, I don't know. They are no doubt struggling because you've got to make that choice. You either weather the cost yourself, and of course they've been weathering a lot of costs the last few years, not just under this government, even under the previous government with the COVID shutdowns and the like. There were enormous economic ramifications for small business, but you can only weather so much and then you become a charity. You know, at some point you've got to start passing it on, and they are. I mean, look in the construction sector. The prices are being passed on left, right and centre. We now have a housing crunch. Ironically, at the same time we're going to let hundreds of thousands of people in. So we're creating short, medium and long-term economic problems here. The thing that frustrates me, Peter, is that none of these are insurmountable and none of them were unforeseen. And yet, like with almost everything in this country, we react. We're pretty good at reacting. We're hopeless at being proactive. And like in medicine, prevention is always better and cheaper than cure.
Let's go to Victoria just quickly on their budget woes. Talk that the ratings agencies will downgrade the Victorian credit rating yet again. That has implications for people at home out of Canberra as well, so it'll infect the whole country. And of course, they made the point last night, don't think Victoria doesn't matter to other economies around the country. And of course, you dig into the detail today about the tax hit for property owners in Victoria. Of course, they can then claim that via their income tax as a depreciation out of their federal monies. So there'll be a reduction because of the hit in Victoria for Andrews. There'll be a reduction on the Commonwealth's take out of Victorian property owners. That'll impact the federal budget, meaning everyone around the country will pay for Daniel Andrews' mistakes in Victoria. This is why it matters.
Well, it is. That's so true. And I noticed Anthony Albanese, when asked about his political allies in Victoria, expressed great confidence in their economic management and abilities. Well, as someone who doesn't live in Victoria, that doesn't give me great hope for the future elsewhere either. I mean, they are managing the national economy. Victoria is the nation's second largest economy. And if it is in strife, and it is, that, as you correctly say, will have a very significant impact right around the nation. I mean, WA probably are going to be, okay, because they've got all of their own unique minerals and whatever, and they're doing very well. But on the eastern seaboard, this does have big implications, and it will do for the federal arena as well.
And Victoria is now the economic albatross. Let's look at the CFMEU, again, dominant in Victoria, but increasingly in places like New South Wales and South Australia. This is in relation to some heat on the federal government today about claims of, and I'll say claims like this, of CFMEU thuggery, because we know there's plenty of it. The Fair Work Ombudsman has now dropped 3 actions against the CFMEU, and they've failed to prosecute any cases or issue fines against the union this year. Now, that's despite the previous watchdog, the ABCC. Well, they took on about 100 cases against the CFMEU and won them, and now they're walking back. There's nothing to see here. Now, I might add, this is the same CFMEU that donated nearly $2 million to Labor's federal campaign last June. I think if you're a union thug, you'd have to say that was money well spent.
Yeah, it'd be a pretty decent investment. Look, if I were the federal government, I'd be concerned that one of the first priorities of the new corruption watchdog in Canberra would be matters like this. They may well have succeeded in getting rid of the ABCC, which was, as you say, a near perfect strike rate of prosecutions against different various parties, including often the CFMEU. But look, we've got to carefully consider, for the betterment of all of our democracy going forward, if we're to have this independent investigative watchdog down in Canberra looking at corruption and who knows what else. I know they're not going to look at pork barrelling, thank goodness. But they've got to look at this. This arrangement between certain funds that come in and then first order business done by governments, which seem to be, well, to the average observer may appear to be a thank you for the down payment during a campaign. And, as I said, pretty much the first order of business for the Albanese government was the abolition of the ABCC, which was a terrific and very, very successful watchdog.
Just quickly, CommBank Chief Executive Matt Comyn, we talked about this earlier in the week, says to his staff, you've got to turn up in the office at least 50% of the time, not onerous, just 50% of the time. You think that was pretty straightforward, but they had an all-staff Zoom meeting. A lot of anger. It's made the news as a lot of people are not happy to even have to turn up half of the week. I tell you what, we've got to wake up and get the productivity moving, or we're in a lot of trouble. You wouldn't have this issue, Michael McLaren, in China, and they're going to be our big competitor.
Yeah, well, true. Mind you, if the power bills keep going up, I think a few people will want the boss to be paying for the heating in the office or the air conditioning in summer rather than home. It could be a big conspiracy we've unplugged here, Peter. But look, no, on a serious note, it's whether people are more productive at home or at work, I don't know. I mean, in the office you can be distracted. At home you can be distracted by different things. So I think we have to wait a bit of time for the numbers of that to come out for what they are. But there's no doubt that the ancillary businesses around the CBD, the cafes, the restaurants, entertainment, the taxis, all of the other things which help drive the economy, they suffer when people are at home. Now, that capital, I think, moves to the burbs. I think the coffee shops in the burbs are doing quite well, but there's a lot of capital invested in the CBD and it is hemorrhaging.
Yeah,
there's no
Michael,
doubt about that.
I've got to call it out. I've got to call out the millennials and the Gen Zs and others. I mean, they think they know everything anyway. If they're not in a workplace and learning from everybody else who actually knows what they're doing, higher up managers, etc., you're going to have a whole generation of kids coming out of school that know nothing but climate change, think they know everything, and basically teaching themselves from home. And you and I will be in our nursing home and they'll be running the country. I don't reckon I like the idea of that. I like them in the office at least for a bit of a week. All right, got to leave it there. Have a good weekend. Right. Look forward to the program on Radio 2GB as always.